Everyone, my name is Corey. I'm speaking on behalf of the International Studies program here at UCSD. Welcome to the BA MPP information session. As you know, this program is for economics students. So the majority of questions having to deal with your economics requirements, I'm going to refer you to your economics advisors, those being Jennifer, Gabriella, Jenna, and Isaac. On our side of this BA MPP program, we'll be working with Julia Ng, as well as Dr. Nancy Gilson, who will be doing the lion's share of the talking, as she knows this program very closely. I'd like to let everyone know who's at this session today that this session will be recorded. So please don't share any personal identification information, your PID, even if you want to stay anonymous with your first name and last name in the chat. You can send questions to one of us directly, and we'd be happy to answer them. In general, with questions, feel free to send any questions in the chat throughout this information session. I'm going to speak on behalf of Jennifer, Jenna, Gabrielle, and Isaac in saying that we'll try to answer these questions to the best of our knowledge. But in general, if there's something that's maybe we can't answer right now, or if it's a question that may be helpful for everyone to know, we'll save that to the very end, and we'll go through a little bit of a Q&A process. So without any further delay, I'll have my colleague, Julia Ng, introduce herself.
Thanks, Corey. Hi, everybody. I'm Julia Ng. I am going to be the new advisor for the BA, or for the 5-year degree joint programs. I am new though, so I'm learning as much as you guys are learning today. So bear with me. But I'm happy to see so many people in here. And just a little about me, I was a UCSD alum in the International Studies program. But just want to say welcome and happy you're here.
Thanks, Julia. And now I'll pass it over to Jennifer. Jennifer, you want to introduce yourself, and the rest of the econ team, if you want to introduce yourself as well, that'd be great.
Hi, yes, my name is Jennifer Buenostra. I am currently one of 3 undergrad advisors here in the Department of Economics, and I've been here for about 7 months.
Hi, my name is Gabriella Ray. I am another one of the undergraduate economics advisors, and so I'm here to answer any questions you might have regarding your economics degree.
And I'm Jenna Pace. I'm still a little bit new. I've been here for about 6 months.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And I'll pass this over to Dr. Gilson. Dr. Gilson can introduce herself. She's the Director of Degree Programs here at the School of Global Policy and Strategy. After you.
First of all, let me welcome all the students who are here. I'm gratified by your interest in the program. If you apply this year, you'll be the 3rd class. We started out in our first class with 1 BA MPP. This year, I think we had 8 join us in the 5-year program. And so hopefully this year we can increase that number. That would be terrific, because the econ students are a really good match for the Masters of Public Policy at GPS, and come in with a tremendous amount of skill and sort of readiness for the graduate curriculum. I was one of the people that worked with the economics department in developing the curriculum, wrote the proposal that went to campus. And so this is really a program that's sort of near and dear to my heart, because I think it's such a great one, both for you as students, given the opportunity to get what is the equivalent of a 2-year master's program with only an additional year of schooling. The curriculum that you'll be taking is identical to that our 2-year students take. And so it gives you an opportunity to do this in a way that's economically more affordable, and in time, with respect to your time, much more efficiently. And so we'll talk about the requirements in the program. If you have questions, put them in the chat. Corey will answer them as he can, or ask one of the econ advisors. I want to echo Corey's request that, going forward, questions about prerequisites for upper division econ courses, completion of the 3 sequences, micro, macro, and econometrics, questions about the advanced electives. These are really best answered by the econ staff. They know what's available, when things are scheduled, when you can take it, and so on. So they're really good for that. Julia and I are here really to help you figure out your eligibility for the program itself, what the program looks like and demands, the application, what is required for the application, what your colleagues in the other 5-year programs will be like, and what it's like for undergraduates to step into a sort of graduate cohort. So there's a clear division of labor here in what we in what we offer you in terms of help. So Julie, you want a next slide? So what is the BA MPP program? So the BA MPP was really fashioned on the longer and quite successful BA MIA, which started as a joint program between the School of Global Policy and Strategy and the Masters of International and the International Studies program. And that program was a consequence of a real synergy between the international affairs curriculum and international studies. Then GPS created its 2-year Masters of Public Policy program that really is founded very much, sort of grounded very much in the skills and knowledge base of economics. So the BA MPP really does build on your economic core sequences. That's why you have to do the micro, macro, and econometric sequence coming in. And one of the things that GPS does then is takes those skills, those hard skills, and then says, here's what they look like when you use them in the real world to design and evaluate policy. Because GPS is a School of International Affairs, one of the things that's different about our public policy program is that it allows you to study public policy around the world, including in the United States. We've added a lot of coursework and curricular foci on policy in the United States. So for example, we have a faculty member who teaches courses on education who looks both at the US, but also Latin America, for example. And so it's really developing a deep policy expertise, either on an individual country or comparatively. The BA MPP is only open to the econ, to the standard economics major. In other words, not the math econ, not what's the other one that you have? Gabriella, help me out. The one that's
management science and business.
Thank you so much. Management science. This is the straight economics major, so your econ code is EN25, right? And so at the end of your senior year, you'll graduate with your bachelor's in economics public policy, and then with an additional year, we'll earn a master's in public policy. So this graphic is designed. One of the things that's often hard for students when they're first thinking about the 5-year program is they can't figure out when do they start graduate work, and when are they doing only graduate work, and what does it mean to say you're getting a 2-year curriculum with only 1 additional year. So what the graphic shows you, if you look at the 4 on the freshman entry and the 2 on the transfer entry, you'll see that it's 2 different shades of blue. What that means is that in your senior year, you're finishing your undergraduate coursework. So for example, for some of you, that might mean your 2 advanced electives, or maybe you're finishing the macro sequence. But then you're also doing the GPS core courses. That is the hard skill and policy courses that all MPP students have to do. You'll be doing those in your senior year. And then you'll have 1 additional year that's 48 units where you really develop your policy specialization. and take a capstone class that allows you to develop a research project on a particular area of interest to you and design, do the research design, develop the methodology, gather the data, and have a deliverable at the end that allows you to show, to give to employers who are looking for evidence of what you can do. So it's not just, a list of courses on your resume. I took micro and macro and econometrics and 3 classes on climate change, but here you really have a deliverable that shows that you've sort of gone deeper into the policy areas and know what the methodologies are that are relevant in those policy areas. So for example, you come to GPS and take a whole year of GIS and remote sensing, or use GIS in development politics or in the development of policy in developing countries. So this is the program overview. So this sort of gives you all of the requirements for economics and for GPS. So this doesn't include your GEs. This doesn't include minor requirements. This just gives you some idea of broadly what the requirements are, and we'll talk about them in more detail in a minute. But you have lower division requirements in department. You have to do the math, the calculus sequence. You have the lower division economics courses that serve as prerequisites for the upper division sequences. And then, as I said, you do the micro, macro, and econometrics series, and you do 2 advanced electives in economics. Now, if you've looked at the requirements for the econ major, and Jenna or Gabriella, correct me if I'm wrong here, the average economics major is going to have 4 advanced electives. Is it 4 or is it 5?
We require
For the regular major.
Yeah, we require a total of 5 electives,
5 electives.
2 advanced electives.
So for the BA MPP, you only have to do 2 electives. And the reason for that is because of the recognition that in your senior year, you're going to be doing GPS graduate courses, right? So we've cut the number of advanced electives in the economics department, but then added on the GPS MPP core, some of which is economics based, so that in effect, you're doing just as much economics and maybe more than your colleagues who stay in the standard economics major. Then in your 1 graduate year, once you've graduated with your bachelor's degree, then you have 48 units that you have to complete. And so for that, you have a policy area of specialization. That's 5 courses. You have to do a public policy capstone. You have choices there, either a capstone that is sort of subject matter. So we have an energy analysis capstone, or one that's driven by methodology, or one that's driven by interests in certain kinds of social policy, for example, in cities. And then any associated prerequisites or electives. So some of your colleagues will be this year will be taking, who are already in the program, are taking GIS because they've decided that they really want to add to their methodological toolkit. And we have an entire sequence built on GIS and remote sensing used in various kinds of policy areas. So this is the broad overview of what you'll be doing. So moving from, sort of foundational courses to hard skill courses to then courses where you're doing economic policy application in cities at the national level, comparatively, if you're comparing national sorts of policies or city policies, and having the opportunity then to do a fairly deep dive research project in the capstone. So these are your lower division. These are your lower division requirements. These shouldn't come as a shock to you. The 10 sequence or the 20 sequence, Econ 1 and Econ 3 these are the basic prerequisites for most of the upper division economics courses. Again, the 100, 110, and 120 sequence. This feeds directly into what, sort of the focus of GPS. We have a number of faculty who have split appointments between GPS and the economics department. And so, they recognize that it was very important for the BA MPP students to come in with a strong foundation in economic skills. And then, as I said, you take 2 advanced electives. That's a department list. So again, you need to talk to the advisors in economics to be, to understand what those courses are. And then this is the core, this is the GPS core that you would be taking in your senior year, along with whatever undergraduate courses you still had remaining so that you could earn your bachelor's degree. So in the fall, you take policy analysis and public welfare. So this is really, as the title suggests, it's really a policy analysis class, thinking about how policy is designed, what are the analytic skills that are necessary for thinking about how policy gets funded, what's the goal of public policy, how is public policy, public per se policy, different from, say, other kinds of policy, what's the, what's the level of focus of public policy. In winter, you take policy making processes. This is a political science class. And the assumption of what we call PMP is that institutions and the organization in different states of how politics is done matters to policy outcomes. So if you're a 2-party country in the United States versus a multi-party or a representative democracy like you get in Europe, you get very different debates. If you think, for example, a basic question about why does England have national health insurance, but the United States doesn't? Part of the answer to that might be that there are more people on the left in England, but probably the better answer is that politics is organized differently so that you get representation of that interest in government. And so you get different policy outcomes. You also take GPCO 404, market failures and policy interventions, which is right now being taught by Julie Cullen, who's the chair of the economics department. And this is the class that sort of runs contrary to, in some ways, the tradition of economics. It begins with the admission at the outset that markets fail. That contrary to the sort of conservative or traditional notion that markets are rational providers of goods, they're buyers and sellers, they're providers. This assumes that markets fail. Not everybody has, they're not always the same level of education across neighborhoods. Not everybody has health insurance. Not everybody is able to afford a house. Not everybody lives in a place where there's environmental protection for both poor communities as well as well-to-do communities. Markets don't provide equivalent goods or even all goods to all people. How do you explain that? And then how do you make decisions about what kind of policies you're going to, you're going to take on as political goals? In spring, you have 2 more core classes, public finance and taxation, also taught by an economics professor, Alex Gelber. Once you decide that you want to have national health care, how are you going to pay for it? You can't just print money. The money has to come from somewhere. How do you pay for things? What are the trade-offs of having health care versus tax breaks, for example? Right? And then policy analysis and decision theory is really a conceptual or a theoretical class taught by a professor who has a joint appointment between GPS and Scripps Institution that looks at, what's the sort of, how do governments or how do agencies decide on what policies? In other words, what's really the decision-making matrix that they apply, and how do you analyze the outcomes of policy? So all MPPs take these courses. These are foundational of an MPP program. And so you'll be coming in and taking these courses with graduate students, but you'll be taking them as seniors in the program. Then you have to have an area of specialization. So it's a policy program. You can't be just a generalist. You have to be interested in a particular area. Again, it's possible to do policy at GPS and have it be on the United States, or have it be on a country outside the United States, or have it be comparative. But these are the areas that are sort of within our expertise. American and comparative business regulation. Think about debates right now about regulating social media, environmental policy, health policy, inequality and social policy. How do you solve the problems of inequality and the provision of social goods? Peace and security. This understands security broadly to be everything from civil wars to borders to food security to, in some cases, climate issues, which are also security issues. And then program design and evaluation really focuses on the hard skills of evaluation. Quantitative methods, GIS, the use of R, the use of Python in developing evaluation mechanisms that look at policy. So the area of specialization is a 5-course requirement. Most students find it possible to do one of these courses in their senior year, but you've got plenty of time in your one graduate year to do this and to do it well. So there are 2 required courses, and then you choose 3 electives. So for example, if you choose to do the program design and evaluation, a specialization, you have to take QM3. That's in the spring quarter. So that's in addition to your econometrics. That's the first methods course that you guys would all take at GPS that builds on your 2 quarters of econometrics. But then you would choose either evaluating social programs that looks at how to do survey data, or GIS. So it allows you to go in very different directions in thinking about policy methodology. And then you have 3 electives so that you can really kind of build on your hard skill expertise. It's possible to complete more than one area of specialization. We have a lot of students who do PD&E and environmental policy. The 2 go very well together. Or they do PD&E and inequality and social policy. And so this is really an opportunity to kind of build this very deep expertise in social policy. Language courses. So the MPP doesn't have a language requirement, but we allow you in your graduate year to take language if you want to. Let's say you want to work abroad and you want to take 3/4 of a language. We will allow you to do language as long as it matches coursework on a country focus in the Asia Pacific region, which is the GPS specialty. So for example, if you take Japanese, or let's say you take Chinese, because you want to do environmental policy on China, we'd let you take 3/4 of Chinese, and then you'd have to take 2 courses on China that sort of build on that expertise. If you take language classes at the graduate level, you have to take them for a letter grade. And if you want to take language at GPS, you'll have to get permission via petition, because we want to be sure that you're going to use it toward a country expertise. I'm not going to read this to you. These are sort of traditional or standard languages that are used at GPS. Again, we don't have a language requirement in the MPP, but some students come in and want to do language because they think that it's an important skill along with some of the methodological skills that they develop. And so we allow them to do language. So this gives you an idea of what the 5-year plan, 4-year plan for you as you're thinking about it, but what the 5-year plan would look like if you enter UCSD as a freshman. And if you're a transfer student, hold on, we have one of these for you as well. But this shows you that the program is doable, right? These are the econ and GPS requirements. You'd have to add in here, your GE requirements for your college. But this shows you how the coursework goes together and includes taking QM3 in the spring of your senior year. But this shows you that, it is possible to do this and graduate with your bachelor's degree on time and begin the graduate program as an undergraduate, and then matriculate to 1 graduate year and get your master's degree. Next, Julia. If you came in as a transfer student, now this assumes, so you came in as a junior. Now this does assume that you came in having done the math sequence and the lower division economics classes that are the prerequisites for the sequences. If that's not the case, it's still doable, but we have to work with you a little bit to figure out how you're going to get the coursework done. We have transfer students in all of the 5-year programs. It's absolutely doable. It just takes a little bit more planning than if you come in without those. A lot of students come in with some of the math and maybe one of the econ courses or both of the econ courses, but not enough, but no calculus. So we have to plan how to get those done. But again, it's doable for transfer students, and we work with them all the time. We also have these certificate programs, which I think is sort of decorations that you get to put on your resume more than anything else. But these allow you to kind of have bragging rights, if you will, that you've taken the set of courses that our faculty think are essential to be able to say that you're a specialist in energy analytics or spatial analysis methodologies. The coursework for these are courses that you will almost certainly take to fulfill your other obligations at GPS. So these are not courses in addition to your requirements. These are courses that you may double count. It's the only area of the curriculum where you can double count coursework, but it allows you to put these, certificates on your resume so that instead of listing all the courses that you've taken that are in spatial analysis, you can put that on there, and then an employer will know that you have a particular expertise in this, right? So that you can have more, particularly if you're as undergraduates, you have more on your resume when you go out to look for a job. So the application, we're beginning to work. I'm beginning to work with students now who are interested in applying this year. The applications are due in April of every year. The applications typically open sometime, in early winter quarter. And then we begin to work with students. We do a workshop on applications. We do a workshop on your statement of purpose in winter quarter. So we help you through the process. When you apply, though, one of the things to remember is that you're actually applying to a graduate program, and Slate is a graduate application platform. So it's going to ask you what program you're applying to, and the program that you'll be applying to is GP76 Public Policy. That's what your degree program will be in your graduate year, right? Not in your undergraduate year. So it's something to sort of tuck away in your brain if you're applying this year. You're going to look for GP76, and it's going to ask you what quarter you're applying for. So again, if you're applying this spring, which is 2022, logically, you're going to tell yourself that you're applying for fall of 2022 because that's when you're going to begin the core work. But you're actually not going to be a graduate student until fall of 2023. So the quarter that you're applying for is actually a full year away from when you're starting. It's actually your graduate year. Every year we have to go in and correct a bunch of applications on this. So, we'll continue to reinforce this, but it's just a way for you, hopefully, when you look at the application, to look at this and say, oh, okay, I get this. Okay, you know what you're being asked. The requirements are a statement of purpose, which is a kind of, I think of it as a kind of intellectual biography. What are you interested in? When did you become interested in it? What have you done in school, in internships, which have sort of developed that interest? And what do you want to do, with the degree in public policy? You have to have a resume, your transcripts from UCSD. For this application, for the April application, it can be a history of it can be your academic history as you see it on WebReg, on Blink. If you're a transfer student, as long as all of your transfer coursework shows on your academic history, you don't need to provide a copy of your community college transcript. And then the names and email addresses of 2 faculty recommenders. You provide those in the system. They get an email that says a student has asked you to provide a recommendation. And for them, it's a series of questions that asks them to rank you in terms of your abilities. It's become a standard recommendation form for professional programs. It's my advice, not a requirement, despite the heading on this slide, that you sit down and you meet with either me or Julia at some point. For a while, it'll be me with Julia sitting in as she gets used to the curriculum. She's smart, she'll get it in a hurry. Meet with me just to talk about eligibility, to talk about your interests, the application process. And you can just send me an email and make an appointment. By the time you apply or start the program, you should have your lower division requirements done, obviously, the econ sequences, substantial progress in your GE requirements. Remember, we want you to graduate with your bachelor's degree on time. So making sure that you don't have to take 5 classes a quarter in your senior year in order to graduate with your bachelor's degree is a real goal of the advising. So figuring out how to get everything in so that you can, thrive in the program. Your major GPA, which is the GPA for your upper division coursework, must be at least a 3.4, and your cumulative GPA must be at least a 3.0. The public policy program in terms of careers is incredibly flexible. And y'all can read, you got into UCSD because you could read, so I'm not going to read this to you. But we have a very good career services staff here that will work with you on your job search. And the limitation on your job search is really your imagination. What do you want to do? What's your ideal job, at least as your first profession when you get out of college? They will work for you. They'll think about with you about how to focus your job search on how to talk about your skills. They do mock interviews. They introduce you to alumni around the world from the program. And so their job is really to make sure that you get face time with people who are hiring in the area where you want to work. So the Career Services does outreach events. They take groups of students to San Francisco, Sacramento. They do a New York, Washington, D.C. Trip. I don't know whether they're going to do those this year, but I think they are, but they will certainly be doing them next year, assuming the world continues to heal. They, as I said, they have some alumni events. So they bring in alumni who are working in all kinds of fields around the world and give you the opportunity of working directly with them. And then in between your senior year and your graduate year, you'll be required to do an internship. Career Services helps you find that internship, and they fund traveling and housing for an internship. So if you want to go work on climate issues in Asia, or you want to go work in a multilateral in Europe, they will help you find that internship and then help fund it so that you're actually able to do the internship that you want to do. And again, the internship is sort of limited. The internship opportunities are really limited by your own imagination. They start by saying, what do you want to do? And where do you want to go? And we have students who do all kinds of, it's during the summer. So you have, you have an opportunity to go all kinds of places around the world. It's up to you in between your senior and your graduate year in the program. I always laugh at this slide telling a bunch of undergraduates that they need to get on social media to figure out what GPS is up to. But here it is for you in one slide. There are other GPS Instagram accounts as well. And I think Facebook is old school these days, but there it is. And LinkedIn, of course, we have a page there that's events and faculty information and faculty research areas, as well as updates on what our students are doing and jobs that they've managed to secure and adventures that they've had. So these are really good resources for you to look at what students are really doing. So if you want to schedule an appointment, here's my email address. As I said, send me an email, give me some different choices about when you're available. I'll see what squares with my calendar and send you back an invitation for an advising appointment. It's a good way to start because it allows you to ask all the questions that you want to ask. And really, I think, is important for you to do, like ask a lot of questions, ask hard questions, and really think about whether the program, be right for you.